He was being held back. He happily took a backseat to the great Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and focused on getting others involved. Once he was given the green light, he unleashed a whole other side that the league had never seen. He made history time and time and time again. To this day, Magic's 1986-87 season is still unquestionably the greatest by a point guard. Before we get to that, we must first understand what led him to such a historic season. Let's go back to the 1986 playoffs. The Lakers were looking to defend their title, and they were destined to meet the Boston Celtics for the third straight time in the finals. They had the best record in the Western Conference, and they were facing a young and up-and-coming Houston Rockets team in the conference finals. They had great potential, but they simply didn't have the talent or the experience to beat the Showtime Lakers. That's what the media claimed, but they shocked the world after defeating LA in 5 games. After such a heartbreaking defeat, the Lakers were forced to make some changes. At the time, Kareem was their primary scorer. Magic's job was to get everyone else involved and to score when it was needed. This method helped them win 3 titles. However, Kareem was no longer the same player. He was 39 years old, and it wasn't wise to revolve the offense around a player pushing 40. The biggest offseason change they made didn't involve a trade or a free agent signing. It was a slight but important adjustment to this already explosive offense. Magic Johnson had it all figured out. According to Sports Illustrated, he went to Pat Riley and told him he was going to be scoring much more. He worked on becoming a better outside shooter and post-up player. This was a moment he was waiting for a very long time. The legendary sports writer Bob Ryan once wrote in his column in 1988 that early in Johnson's career, he said to several Lakers beat writers, "You won't see the real Magic show until Kareem retires." The captain wasn't ready to call it quits just yet, but we saw a glimpse of the greatest show on earth. He averaged a stat line that's only been done once in the history of the league. He averaged 23.9 points on 52% shooting, 12.2 assists, 6.3 rebounds, and 1.7 steals per game. He led the league in assists, and he finished 10th in scoring. This is the only time that we've seen a player average over 23 points and 12 assists in a season. When you add his rebounding averages, you could say this is one of the most impressive all-around seasons ever. The improvement that he made in his game was showcased at various times during the year. For example, he had a stat line against the Sacramento Kings that made it seem like LeBron James was out on the floor. He scored his career high of 46 points on 47% shooting, along with 10 rebounds and 9 assists in an overtime victory. There were also 2 other games where he scored over 40 points. Then there was a game where he would make Russell Westbrook blush. Against the Houston Rockets, he had 38 points on 61% shooting, 16 assists, 8 rebounds, and 3 steals. Then, of course, there were games where he played like the old Magic, like when he had 20 assists and 11 points in just 28 minutes against the Nuggets. With Johnson playing at his absolute best, the Lakers reached a level of dominance that we've only seen a handful of times. The most noteworthy stat is that they hold the highest offensive rating out of any team of the 20th century. It was 115.6, which is the same as the 2016/17 Golden State Warriors. That is a perfect comparison to how remarkable the Lakers were on offense. The same way we thought the Warriors were unstoppable on the offensive end is how the league viewed this team. Magic deserves most of the credit for that. For example, this is how legendary sports writer Jack McCallum described the Lakers that season for Sports Illustrated. Quote, "Without Magic waving his wand over every X and O in the Laker game plan, the Lakers would be merely above average instead of the top drawer. Rarely has one player done so much for one team in one season." End of quote. As impressive as all that was, the biggest reason this is the greatest season by a point guard came in the playoffs. The poor Western Conference teams had no chance of outscoring them unless one of your team's best players had the game of his life. It took a 51-point game by Sleepy Floyd in the semifinals for them just to lose a game. the Lakers felt very little resistance on their road to the finals, as they beat their opponents by double digits for 7 of their 10 victories. That includes 3 games where they won by over 30 points. The Lakers didn't need Magic to bring the good stuff until they finally faced a worthy opponent in the finals. They faced a familiar foe, the Boston Celtics, and Magic had some unfinished business to settle. Although the team redeemed themselves from their heartbreaking finals defeat in 1984, Magic Johnson still needed to prove himself to some doubters. He was getting all kinds of criticism for not being clutch after making some head-scratching mistakes throughout that series. He saw this as an opportunity to completely erase that stigma. He started the series by running the Celtics out of the floor. Game 2 was one of the finest playoff performances of his career. He recorded 22 points on 59% shooting, 20 assists, 5 rebounds, and 3 steals. He did all that in 31 minutes of play, as they won the game by convincing 19 points. This is the only time a player has posted over 20 points and 20 assists in the finals. But his finest moment came in Game 4. With LA down by 16 points in the third quarter, he went to work. He was torching the Celtics defense with all sorts of shots. He forced them to respect his scoring ability, which then opened the floor for his teammates to hit open shots. That opened the door for the greatest moment in the history of the Lakers, in my humble opinion. He was usually the one assisting the game-winning play, but this time he wanted to take it himself. He converted on the junior skyhook over Robert Parrish and Kevin McHale. Just like that, you couldn't call him Tragic Johnson anymore. He is still known as one of the great clutch playoff performers, and this shot is a big reason why. When it was all said and done, he ended the season with a regular season MVP, a championship, and a finals MVP. We talked about how iconic his regular season numbers were, but his numbers in the finals were even more historic. He averaged 26.2 points on 54% shooting, 13 assists, 8 rebounds, and 2.3 steals per game. What you're looking at is the most unique per game stat line for the finals. No one has been able to score and distribute the ball on the biggest stage as Magic did in that series. On top of that, he was extremely efficient with the ball. He only committed 13 turnovers compared to the 78 assists he recorded. He was so dominant that Larry Bird even said this about his bitter rival during the finals.
Magic's just a great basketball player. He's the best I've ever seen, Unbelievable. I don't know what to say.
When a player like that is calling you the best ever, what more can be said? When it comes to the greatest season from start to finish, the 1980 season for Magic should absolutely be in the discussion. If we're just talking about point guards, no one comes close to what he accomplished. But what about you all? What do you remember the most from Magic's 1987 season? Do you think it's the greatest season by a point guard? And where would you have this ranked among the greatest seasons of all time? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.